Before we get started, Square-Enix did provide me with a review code for this game. When it came to the base game, I absolutely loved it. The combat system was a nice mixture of a modern action system, with flashy moves mixed in with the traditional ATB elements from the original. This allowed the combat to move at a fast pace while allowing you to slow everything down to make some calculated attacks. I love the story, and they very much nailed the characterization for the entire cast. It felt like the original characters as they were written, now in modern tech. Certain story elements enhance the narrative, like adding more depth and development to the Avalanche crew, while other areas I was not a huge fan of, like the mysterious ghost characters. While this is only part one of the story, there is a chance later on that new revelations may change my mind on the matter, as it provides more context to what the ghosts actually were. But the ghosts didn't really seem like they operated on any sense of consistency, and felt like the writer's way to do anything that they wanted to make the plot go in a certain direction. Essentially, they felt like an excuse for lazy writing. The base game really rode that line between being some kind of a sequel and being a ground-up remake of the original. I had a few issues with it, but the characters were respected and well done, and so was the enjoyable gameplay, which is why I was excited to jump into the expansion that focused on Yuffie. While I enjoyed her presence and unique weapon in the original, she did not have a lot of development, and she was more of a cool additional character. In this expansion, they aim to do more with her, and it works really well. I generally find Japanese RPGs to have a healthy dose of cheese to them, and in most cases I very much like this and find it charming. The base game had a fair amount of cheese, but there is a lot more with how they approach Yuffie. Yuffie is a likable character, and you will find yourself laughing and smiling a bunch in this story. The expansion provides 2 chapters for her narrative. The first one is very light, as we are introduced to her and her mission. The second chapter is what provides the needed drama with some nice heartfelt moments. The cast is small, and it allows for an intimate, short, and concise adventure. Without spoiling anything, the story is really good, and I enjoyed it. My only issue with it is that there are some points where characters make reference to past events, but they are not elaborated on enough, so you can't really get a full grasp on understanding them. When it comes to the gameplay, it operates just like the base game. You have your basic attacks, and they help to refill your ATB bar. You can use your filled bars as a means to do special moves or cast spells. Yuffie is a very fast character. She can throw her pinwheel at enemies and quickly zip to them, or you can leave the pinwheel damaging an opponent and then cast some ranged attacks. Her basic moveset gives you a lot of options while in fights. You gain an ally later on that you can use to set up synergy moves that do devastating damage. The combat encounters in the expansion mostly remain the same like in the base game, while playing as Yuffie is what makes it unique. The expansion provides a good amount of content. If you are just focused on the story stuff, it will take about 4 to 5 hours to complete it. There are plenty of fun distractions scattered throughout for additional rewards. The block-breaking minigame comes back. You can fight and acquire a new summon, along with opening up the combat simulator if you replay the DLC on hard. The levels are a nice mixture of old and new areas for you to interact with. One neat mechanic is how Yuffie can use her weapon in the environment to break boxes or open up new paths. The new boss fights are fun, flashy, and challenging, but the best of the side content is related to Fort Condor. This is easily the best minigame that the entire Final Fantasy VII Remake experience has to offer. Fort Condor is a board game that is inspired by the same strategy minigame from the original 7. This minigame is pretty involving, engaging, and rewarding to play. There are a few people within the slums who play the game, and you can challenge them to earn different rewards. At the start of a match, you need to select which board you're going to use. You can buy new boards with coins that you earn from winning Fort Condor matches, or through winning those matches. The boards provide provide you with advantages and options to deploy different strategies. Some come with more materia options and others allow for faster ATB along with other options. After you have selected your board, you need to pick which units you are going to use in a battle. It is easy to think of this like selecting cards to have in a deck. You can also use coins to buy more units, or you will find them through exploration. It is important to note that you can see your opponent's boards along with their units and what they're bringing into the fight. As such, you can plan accordingly to counter their units. While in a match, your goal is to do the most damage and destroy the enemy's towers and headquarters. If no towers have fallen on either side, then the match will go into sudden death mode, and the first team to destroy a tower wins. While in a match, you do not directly control your units. You will spawn them in, but they will follow a path towards your enemy's buildings, stopping to fight enemy units along the way. You will use your ATB points to spawn in different units, and these points generate throughout the fight. There is a line that indicates the furthest point you can spawn your units to. As you push the enemy back, you can spawn your units closer to the enemy base. Units operate on a system where they are good against one type of unit and weak against another. To keep things simple, there are 3 different types of colored units: red, blue, and green. Red are good against green but are weak against blue. Blue are strong against red but weak against green, and so on. This may all seem like a lot just for a minigame, but after a few matches you will pick up on how it works, and it's one of the best aspects about this expansion. So much so that I wish that there were more than 4 times the amount of matches available to the player. There are a good amount of matches and they can be pretty tough. They essentially act like an engaging RTS puzzle, where you're trying to find the best way to defeat your opponent before getting overwhelmed. There is a good amount of replay value here as well, if you decide to replay the DLC on hard after beating it on normal. Fort Condor on hard operates the same with some changes. On hard, you need to destroy the enemy's headquarters. Destroying the towers will not net you with a win. Now, if you still haven't destroyed the enemy's headquarters within 3 minutes, then it goes into sudden death, but sudden death only lasts for 1 minute. And if you fail to destroy the HQ within that time period, your enemy will win by default. Hard mode really makes you take a good look at what your opponent has and what you should bring into the fight to counter them. It also requires you to think differently than before, since now you need to win within new conditions. So this is all about fighting effectively. This minigame is an absolute blast, and one that I hope that we see more of in the next entry. The base game had an excellent soundtrack, and that remains the same in this expansion. There are some new tracks for the DLC, and they fit right in. Here are a few tracks from the game. The INTERmission expansion is a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed my time with Yuffie and experiencing her story. For a character that wasn't the most in-depth in the original, this DLC allows her to get more development and shine here. The story is a nice mix of cheesy, funny moments with some drama in the second half. The combat is just as enjoyable as the base game, and the side content helps to increase the runtime. Fort Condor is easily the best part about this DLC. I had a few minor issues with the camera going nuts in some of the fights, but outside of this, it was all very good. I do think that $20 is a bit too high for what is here, even though what is here is very good. I feel like 15 would have been more appropriate, but if you love the base game, then you're gonna get your money's worth here. I recommend this expansion, and thank you very much for watching.